Welcome to ProjectME, the podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Carter, the founder of ProjectME, multimillionaire entrepreneur, former TV newscaster, money-making expert, female empowerment speaker, and self-proclaimed office supply addict. My mission is to take the mystery out of making big money. Every week on ProjectME, the podcast, I'll share success tips, strategies, and stories from other entrepreneurs, experts, and millionaires, showing you exactly how you can achieve your most exceptional life. Now let's get to it. Exciting announcement for all of my listeners. I've officially opened my exclusive group, the ProjectME Passive Income Posse, to the public. This group is by application only, so we can keep the group high vibe and spend our time, energy, and expertise only helping those of you who truly want massive success and impact. You get live weekly trainings from me, special guest coaches, and direct access to me and my business partner for all of your questions. To learn more and apply, go to projectmewithtiffany.com, click on Work With Me, and select ProjectME Posse. And of course, any questions, feel free to DM me at ProjectME with Tiffany. Welcome to ProjectME with Tiffany Carter, the podcast and posse. I'm your host, Tiffany, and this episode is designed for you guys to come back to it again and again and again. Not if you need the reminder, but when you need it. Here's the thing, when it comes to this whole being worried about what other people will think, whether it's the fun term of they, like this infamous they, who the hell are they? It's like they is the collective of all the people who ever put you down emotionally, verbally, physically abused you, bullied you, who doubted you, who were being catty to you, all combined into one. On what they will think. All of us do it, and you could watch, you better damn watch me. You could watch me, on video or, follow me on Instagram at ProjectME with Tiffany, and you're thinking, God, Tiffany she gives zero fucks. That's her whole thing. And she doesn't care what people think of her. And she just has no problem, pressing record, going on there, going live, going on stages, doing podcasts, all the things. You forget, especially if you've not been following my story from the beginning, or maybe you have, but you've chosen to have forgotten because this is what our egos do. When we're immersed in comparison-itis and thinking other people who are successful don't care what people think, and they have all this confidence and charisma, and I don't, we start almost making up their story or conveniently forgetting parts of their story. You guys, I had no self-worth. When I say no, I'm talking I didn't believe in God. I was afraid to even believe in God or a higher power because I thought I was forgotten about. I really thought I was a mistake, that I was just kind of floundering in the world, and I felt all alone. On the outside, by most people's standards, they would think, oh, wow, Tiffany's really confident. A lot of people would say oh, she has her shit together. Because I knew how to fake confidence by watching other confident people, because I knew that if I at least faked confidence and stood up straight and spoke clearly and enunciated my words and didn't speak, really softly, and do this kind of speaking oh, I don't know. I knew that if I was very decisive in decision-making, I knew that is what confident people did. And I wanted to be that way. So I thought, not all this was conscious, but some of it was. I thought if I acted the part, wore the costume and acted the part, I would end up feeling how I wanted to feel. And no, that's not the case. I did end up, getting confidence in the area of my career, not so much as a TV newscaster. That's a really cutthroat industry. Any of you who are listening, who are journalists now or former journalists. I mean, man, it's cutthroat. I mean, it's nasty. It's competitive. It was really difficult for me. For someone who has no self-worth or little self-worth and doesn't have a support network, that's a tough industry. Same with like going into, acting or singing. There's just certain career paths that are brutal. I have so many stories from them. I mean, I definitely partied a lot. I ate too much. I did all the things in order to dissociate because it was so uncomfortable. But when I got into the world of like pharmaceutical sales, medical sales, and all of that, once I finally actually learned how to sell in a way that felt good to me, because in the beginning it was a disaster. I got the job even after, I think it was like 40 or 50 interviews. I actually think it was 50 different interviews, but I finally got the job, and I got the job by, one of the top most ethical pharmaceutical companies in the world, at Merck. And, that's why I say, you guys, it's divine timing, because I ended up getting the job at the place I was supposed to work at, one that's ethical, one that invests an insane amount of money in training their people, both in personal development and, and in sales. And I didn't have confidence at all there, but I got the job because I was able to fake confidence well, very well. And then I was like, oh shit, I'm a fraud. I was like, I'm going to get found out. I actually have no fucking idea what I'm doing, which I had zero idea what I'm doing. And I'm sure there's some of you that can relate right now. Maybe you have an online business. Maybe you're in network marketing. Maybe you're in a corporate job, whatever it is. But you're kind of like, God, if people only knew, I really have no idea what I'm doing, or I only know a little bit of what I'm doing. And the rest I really don't know. I had no one to talk to say, I really don't know what I'm doing. Like, I wasn't going to say that to like new coworkers. I wasn't going to say that to my boss. So I had, I floundered. I had to figure it out. But then I did get confidence, because once I learned how to sell, market, relationship build in a way that didn't feel gross or sleazy and felt, and actually felt good to little miss, introvert me. I started seeing a lot of success, right? So I got awards, I got bonuses, I got like, they'd give you all sorts of things like free trips, stuff like that. And so I did start getting confidence and worth in the career side of my life, but nowhere else. And it really wasn't true confidence. My confidence was only contingent upon my sales numbers, or contingent upon if I won that award, or contingent upon my ranking in the company, or contingent upon my latest review with my boss. That's not true confidence. That's not what I'm talking about here today in learning how to care, learning how to stop caring what other people think, right? When you have genuine, true confidence and worth at core, you really don't give zero fucks. That doesn't mean you're a callous, cold person, but you know that you are worthy of having a life that's filled with joy, success, and abundance, and that your mission and your purpose is far more important, and your well-being is far more important than what Aunt Susie thinks about you trying to make money on Instagram and thinking that's ridiculous and you should go back to school, or what your husband thinks about you wanting to be a coach. And it's like, a coach, what the hell is that? Who's going to hire you to do that? You're not Tony Robbins or something like that. I don't give a shit who it is. It could be your best friend. It could be a lot of you that I work with that are in my posse and that I work with one-on-one have a lot of fears about the collective they. What will they think? What will they say? They're going to think I'm stupid. They're going to think I'm not experienced enough. They're going to think I don't know what I'm talking about. They're not going to like my stuff. You know who they is, you guys? They is fucking you. They is your critical parent in your brain. This is you. It sounds kind of crazy, but I want you to really take that in. This collective they, well, people, or when you say people, well, people are going to think this about me. People are going to think I don't know what I'm talking about. People are going to think I'm all that. People are going to think I'm being pushy. People are going to think I'm all about getting money. People are going to think I'm in a pyramid scheme thing, which is what a lot of, network marketing people are afraid of. People are going to think that, I'm, little Miss Influencer and it's all about me, right? People's the same as they. It is the inner bully committee in your brain. It's also known as the critical parent. It's nasty what we say to ourselves, and we start piling it on and piling it on. And this just expands over time if it's not dealt with. It just gets nastier and nastier. And so we have this whole, critical committee in our brain that's this collective they think, or people will say, or people will think. And what ends up happening is, because that's filling our brain, our mind so much of the time, how would you end up feeling, right? If you have that going on all the time, or even 50% of the time, even 25% of the time, you're going to end up not feeling great. You're going to feel defeated, unmotivated, uninspired. Why bother? Less than. Who do I think I am? Self-doubt. You're going to be in self-judgment. All those things. And then when we're in that kind of a space, do you really think that you're going to show up and press record on a video? Do you think you're going to start that blog, start that podcast, develop that product line, create that website, start the business, change careers, go back to school? Do you think any of that's going to happen from that low vibe, defeated space? No. It's not going to happen. And then maybe you have a good day, or maybe you have a good couple of days, like you listen to, one of my podcasts. It might be this podcast, or you go to a live event, or there's something that has like pumped some life into you, where you're like, you know what? I'm not going to worry about what they think. I'm going to get to that zero fuck zone that Tiffany talks about. Hell yes. And then maybe you're in that zone for 2 days, and then you flip right back into it. Usually right before you guys do the thing and put the thing out there. You can be pretty good about like doing the research, planning the stuff, mapping it out. But when it comes to like, marketing your offering and telling people about your services and going live and pressing play and pressing publish, that's when your ego comes in and tries to have you crash and burn right then and there. And then the negative committee, the critical committee in your brain, rules the show. And it's just over and over again. That's why you don't have consistency. That's why you've not started. That's why about a million things. And you're always going to have that critical committee is always there. It gets quieter and quieter. The more work you do, the more inner work, the more you talk to it, the more you develop, as they call the loving parent side, the loving committee side. But you've spent so much time developing the negative committee and building relationships and listening to the negative committee that the actual loving committee has no seats at the table in your brain. So you have to develop relationships with the loving committee in your brain, and only you can do that. Surrounding yourself with other people who support you, whether they're people in real life or people online, that's very helpful. Fueling yourself with podcasts like mine is really helpful. Books, videos, things that are going to help fuel that positive committee and further develop that positive committee. Because what you want is the positive committee, right? And in your brain, your loving committee, you want that to be ruling the show. That does not mean that critical committee won't exist. It both exist, right? It's duality. Good and bad, right? Good and bad, happy, sad. We're going to have duality in our lives. It's part of being a human being. But as long as you have that loving committee that's running the show, and that critical committee is, maybe a 10% or less voice, now we've got something, right? Now we've got something. And it doesn't happen overnight. It took me quite a bit of time, and I do daily work to keep nurturing and supporting that loving committee. So what are you watering? What are you nurturing? What are you giving time, energy, and attention to? Your loving committee in your brain or your critical committee? I already know the answer. Most of you are doing the critical committee. And it's time to give the love and attention and support to what we want. When we give love, attention, time, energy, support to what we don't want, we get more of what we don't want. When we give love, attention, time, and energy to what we do want, we get more of what we do want. But you have to have the discipline, the daily discipline, not once a week, not once a month, the daily discipline to fuel that loving committee by talking to it, by using affirmations. When the critical committee comes up saying, thank you for sharing that, but we're going to listen to the loving committee right now. Thank you for sharing that. We're going to listen. We're going to hear what the loving committee has to say right now. And literally talk to yourself. Ask the loving committee, what is it you have to say about me doing this? What is it you have to say about this? And you can then write the answer, or you can have the full conversation out loud. I don't know, could be only child syndrome. I have full-blown conversations. Like I would ask, let me give an example of something that I know, something recently that really makes sense. So there's some things I wanted, to obviously share and be vocal about and take a stand on that are going on in the world. And I knew that, but I did not want to feel forced into posting or sharing anything before I was clear, because leaders don't do that. Leaders aren't reactionary. Leaders reflect, because that's the responsible thing to do. Reflection and get clarity, right? But the critical committee in my brain was like, you better put something out there. You better use that George Floyd graphic that's, all these other, influencer people are posting. Like, you better get that out there, or you're going to come across like you don't give a shit, and that, you don't support the amazing Black people in your community, and you need to do it. You need to do it. Well, a loving committee doesn't talk like that. That's nastiness, right? So then I said, okay, hold on, critical committee. Okay, like pipe it down a notch. All right, calm your tits. And this was all out loud. Just saying, you don't have to do this out loud, but it's kind of actually a cool exercise, and it's very cathartic to do it out loud, and also empowering to hear your own voice. Then I went over to the loving committee and I said, loving committee, I want to know what it is you have to say about me getting the message out there and taking a stand and showing support and making it very clear, even though really all of you guys know where I've stood this whole time. Nothing's fucking changed. Okay. Nothing has changed my entire life on where I stand on all of this, on equality, on racism, on the support of the Black community, on the support of people of color who are not Black, of white people, of women, of the gay community. I mean, this has been out there my entire life, some publicly, some behind the scenes in how I live every single day. So this is like nothing new, but I knew that it was important to take a stand and make it clear and put it out there in support. I knew that was very important. So when I asked the loving committee, it was a very clear answer, and it said, you need to turn to God. That's all the loving committee said. That's when you know that the loving committee has spoken. It's usually very short, and it's very clear, and it will feel good in your body. It'll feel soothing. It'll feel like, taking a beautiful bubble bath. Whereas the critical committee, you start sweating, your throat constricts, your heart starts racing, you get, anxiety. That's loving committee doesn't make you feel that way. And I go, you're right. Like, why am I trying to figure this out on my own when I can turn to a power greater than myself? So I prayed on that, and it was very clear to me. It was about 2 days later, because we don't put time constraints on prayer. And it was clear as a bell what I needed to do, how I wanted to say it, etc. And so I did. So there's a great example. And I have to tell you, now I've done a lot of work around this. So it wasn't like I was worried about pressing post, worried about, backlash, anything like that. I really wasn't, because I know my truth. And when you speak your truth and you know who you are as a person and in integrity, if someone wants to bash you, they can bash you. If someone wanted to correct me or educate me on something, that's fine too. But it wouldn't rattle my self-worth. It wouldn't prevent me from speaking up. But that's the beauty of doing this work and developing that loving committee. That's why I'm able to show up the way I can show up. And I want this for all of you. I can't make you be disciplined in further developing the loving committee, but think of a public company, well, even a private company, right? Of certain sizes, they have a board, right? So they have people who sit on the board. You get board seats. So picture there's 10 board seats on the company of your life. Right now, your board is probably filled with 8 or 9 assholes and one person you actually like. Well, that doesn't sound like a really fun life or a company to be part of, does it? What you want is you want to have, 9 people who are part of the loving committee, 9 people who you love there, and maybe there's one kind of asshole. For me to tell you all 10 need to be loving, that's not realistic, and I'm not going to tell you that. Because it's always helpful, again, to have the duality, to have the polarity. It's always helpful to hear the critique as long as we don't take it into our soul and heart. It offers us perspective. There's a reason why it's there. Sometimes it's there well, wait a second, don't get all, Pollyanna positive here. Have you thought about this? It's also there to protect us. So don't try to crush out the critical committee. You just want the loving committee in your brain to rule the show. So I want you guys to ask yourselves this question. When your mind starts, messing with you, does what blank, he, she, Aunt Susie, Polly the influencer says, thinks, or does matter more to me than my overall happiness and success in life? Does what they, people, Aunt Susie, Polly the influencer say, think, or does matter more to me than my overall happiness and my success in life? If that answer is no, then you need to do the damn thing anyway. And it's not going to be comfortable. It's going to feel awkward. It's ripping off a Band-Aid. And then it gets easier and easier to do it every time. But you're going to have to do that part. I can't do that part for you. But you can come back to this episode when you need to have this poured into you, which you will, and just keep coming back to it. Why don't you guys do a big service to other people out there who have been doubting themselves, who are playing small, who you care about, and share this episode on Instagram in your stories. Take a screenshot, share it, tag me at ProjectME with Tiffany so that other people can rise up and be who they need to be in order to serve who they're meant to serve and stop blocking their greatness. I mean, imagine if all these amazing people who we look up to, who we get so much help from and energy from, imagine if they stayed stuck in that critical committee and never showed up. Oprah never showed up. Our favorite music artists never showed up. Beautiful authors never showed up. I never showed up. Because you won't show up if that critical committee is running the show, or you just won't show up consistently, or you won't show up as loud and proud and zero fucks as you need to in order to make the most impacting cash that I know you want to make and that you deserve to make. So if you love this episode and you want to show extra gratitude, go leave a 5-star written iTunes review. All right. Then take a screenshot of it and share it in DM me on Instagram at ProjectME with Tiffany so that I can treat you to a coffee drink of your choice or a blended juice of your choice as my way of saying thank you for taking 90 seconds of your time to do that. Obviously, this show is free to all of you, but it is not free for me to create. This costs quite a bit of money every single month, and it costs a lot of time and energy for me to do it, even though I love it. So I would appreciate that token of gratitude so much, and the fact that I'm buying you something in return to even say thank you for that gesture. It'd be, crazy to not take me up on it. I love doing that exchange, right? You do something beautiful for me, I do something beautiful for you, vice versa. It feels really, really good to be of service in that way. All right. Wishing you guys great health, wealth, and worth as always. Love you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.